live! Welcome to Life Action Roleplay with
Cynthia Marie
and Kai Norman
and Ryan Omega. What are we drinking today?
Wine.
I am drinking rum and Coke. Actually, no, wait. I'm drinking Sailor Jerry's and Pepsi.
I am drinking Captain
important.
Morgan Spice Rum and Pepsi. So I guess...
Are you sure that's Morgan?
That's what it is.
I think it's... Is it Captain Morgan?
I think you got some Captain.
I failed. I was drinking Captain Morgan as well.
Captain Morgan.
Yeah, good job.
From a different bottle.
I don't know which bottle you've been drinking.
He drank from the bigger bottle.
Look, I have a position of superiority at the moment because I'm the only person wearing pants.
I can agree with that.
I think that's just lame.
Yeah, he only wants his lips around the big bottle.
Oh! But furthermore, we do need to talk about this problem. We are all pantsless except for you.
Well, you're the one that turned on the AC. I'm going to get cold.
Big deal. I can turn it off.
Yeah.
It's an app.
Ladies and
I'm
gentlemen.
frightened, dude. My balls are going to go from like this big to this big. You know
Right?
what I mean?
Yeah.
Ladies and gentlemen, just to let you know, we decided to go pantsless for this particular podcast.
And why did we do that?
Because Sin did not want to wear pants. Let's be real.
And then Ryan said he had Spider-Man boxer briefs.
I
Yes.
do.
Are they boxer briefs or are they boxers?
They are...
That's boxer brief. Well,
Boxer briefs.
They're boxer briefs because...
they're tight, yeah.
Yeah, because they have form.
Oh, okay.
They have form.
Fair enough.
Would it be appropriate to knock on your boyfriend's door and say, "Hey, thanks for the quarter wrench. I'm going to drop my trowel now"?
No.
Let's see. Shout-outs. Do we have any shout-outs for people today?
I have shout out.
Okay.
My shout out goes to my friend Michael McIntyre. He is one of my college really good friends. He just came out with his fan film for The Witcher. I will post it to our Facebook. You guys should check it out. It's really, really cool. They did a really great job with some of the effects and fighting and all that kind of stuff. So good job, Mike.
Oh, I guess everyone's looking at me, so that's my turn.
Yeah, that's us looking at you to drop your pants.
Correct.
Maybe later. So...
Tease.
Yeah.
Right?
So,
But you never had a straight man asking you to drop your pants before.
that's
Drop
not
them.
true. That's
Drop
not
them.
true. You are not the first. I'm trying to think of my shout out, and everyone's just telling me to take my pants off. This is so unprofessional.
It's distracting. Your pants are distracting. That's why I do.
Your pants.
You guys hear
So
what
distracting.
I'm having to work with? This is ridiculous. Like, oh my god. Okay, so my shout out is that quite a few of you have been reaching out to me. Some are fans of the show, and some are just general, friends and people that I know. But I prefer to see that line blur because anyone who's listening to the show is probably an awesome person with a lot of good taste, or they just found us on the internet. What I was saying is that a lot of people have been reaching out to me and asking for advice on how to build costume pieces and things like that. Like, hey, how should I try out this aspect or this aspect? Like, what should I do here, or etc. And it's been a lot of fun kind of giving people some tips and showing them some good methods and stuff. I'm more of a kind of person that likes to give people a fishing rod rather than just a straight fish. So I love it when people need a little bit of advice and then they go off and make something freaking awesome all on their own. I'm like, yeah, you did that. That's super, super cool. So I just really like seeing people do more of the cool things.
Yeah.
Yeah. I kind of rambled.
That's
oh,
okay.
God, I got loud.
We're all wearing headphones for the very first time, so we're actually hearing our voices in the mic.
So
Ryan.
in advance, because I'm understanding this is how my voice sounds, I am so sorry.
Aww.
I'm subjecting people to this voice. I can't believe I'm doing it. It's monstrous. Why are we doing that? We should stop. This is silly.
Good night, everybody.
Yep,
Good
we're
night.
done. Gone.
Ryan, what's your shout out?
Okay, so I have a couple of them, but the biggest one would be to my cast of Furious Fate. We had a Q&A, and I definitely felt like after that Q&A session that I belonged. And it was also cool because we have been approved for a third season.
Yay!
And that will come in summer. And especially a shout out to Dodger, who revealed to the internet last week that she is enceinte,
What?
pregnant.
Yay!
Yeah. And she's always been super encouraging of me and is looking to possibly try a LARP of something that might be storytelling soon. So so I'm really, really happy for her. Congratulations.
Yay.
And I also want to do a shout out to my friend Shayna Fleischer, who is on another D&D show called Different Elves, which is based. Their campaign's based off of the Curse of the Strahd, so a lot more vampire D&D type things. And she had reached out to me about a very emotional, highly emotional scene that she played on Twitch, and she was asking if that bleed was normal. And I said, yeah, that's when you're really invested into a character and you make hard character choices, like it makes total sense. So it's nice that we're having this discussion of bleed, not just in LARP, but in some of the live stream role playing. Now it's become a thing where parts of LARP can actually assist people who are doing live stream role play and in their performance.
Yeah.
Ooh. When you say Strahd, are you talking about Ravenloft?
I'm not completely sure. I think so.
We're going to go with yes.
Yes.
I'm pretty sure because Strahd is the evil vampire count that's kind of the big BBG in the Ravenloft setting.
Then the answer is yes.
Awesome.
Yeah, that's the campaign they're playing.
Cool.
James, who is joining us here as our audio engineer from Ancient Archives Apparel. Hi.
Hey, that's me.
Yes, it is. What's new in the store?
This is what I'm going to tell you guys today. So, I created a sword, and I was
You made a
thinking-
sword?
Yeah, it's a pretty cool sword.
Like a metal sword or a LARP
No,
sword?
it's a LARP sword.
Okay.
Yeah, it's a LARP sword. But my design, I was trying to think of something that would be different, but still relevant and familiar, which is very contradicting.
Yeah.
So, this is what I did. I took two different swords, and I blended them together. Well, never been done before, right? That was a joke. So,
I'm in the middle of drinking.
you take.
Can't laugh.
So, does everyone know what the Geon style sword is from?
Nope.
It's a sword out of China. A lot of the warriors from back in the day.
Oh, are we talking about the like Chinese?
I might be saying it wrong. Yeah.
Are we talking about the Chinese like Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon style, like
Correct.
double bladed or double edged like Chinese longsword style?
Exactly. So that's
cool.
the Geon sword.
Got
I
it.
did not know that's what they were called.
Nope.
Yeah, Jian. Yeah, just recently.
Oh, Jian sword. Okay.
Jian, yeah, I'm saying it wrong.
Okay.
Sure, but we got it. Okay, so I took that, and then I took the basic broadsword that everybody knows. I put it together, and I made the Jian broadsword.
Right on.
Yeah, it's actually pretty cool. If you check it out in Ancient Archives Apparel, it's LARP safe, and so you won't hurt anybody
Oh, good.
while you actually hurt people.
Oh, good.
Oh, right. Yeah, I know. Yeah, it's good all around. It's pretty cool. But if you purchase it, it comes with a free sheath.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Whoa.
And you can see all the pictures on Ancient Archives Apparel.
I may have to get one.
It's pretty cool. It's pretty cool,
Nice.
I must say.
And for today's topic, it is our Ask Us Anything segment, which would be the entire podcast. So it's the Ask Us Anything podcast. And so it made sense when the hosts talked about who should moderate. It didn't make sense that would be any of us. So we're going to have our friend James moderate for us.
Yeah. Well, what I have in front of me, ladies and gentlemen, is a hat full of your questions. But before I dive into that, so how y'all meet?
I got this. I think I'll start it.
Yeah.
Sure.
So, Labyrinth of Jareth, 2011.
10.
10? 10?
10 was my first one.
Was it really 10? Mm-hmm. Oh my God.
It was the first year of when we were at the Park Plaza.
Oh my God. Was it really? Damn. Okay, so Labyrinth of Jareth, 2000.
Sin,
10.
what's Labyrinth of Jareth?
Labyrinth of Jareth is a rather large masquerade. It's actually probably one of the biggest in North America at the current moment.
It's definitely the biggest in North America
Yeah.
and one of the top 5 in the world,
Yeah.
according
so
to a recent article.
It's a giant ball that has a lot of theater and dance and immersive experiences.
Mm-hmm.
Not going to necessarily say it's LARP. but some may consider it LARP, considering the expansive costumes that come out and the characters that we all end up portraying. So I've been playing this character, good Lord, Visidi, for a lot of years.
You guys usually do that every year?
Yes, every year in the summertime. I'm not going to necessarily say when because it's jumped around. When I first started, it was in the beginning. No, it was at the end of July. Then it jumped to the beginning of July, and now it's at the end of August. So somewhere in the summertime is typically, yes, cool. Southern California, downtown LA. It's been at the Biltmore Hotel for the last 3 years now.
3 or 4 years?
3 or 4 years.
Something like that.
The years are blending together. I apologize. But at any rate, my second year performing at Labyrinth of Jareth, there was a very excited stagehand who came in all blacks and was like, "What do you need help with? What can I do? What can I do?" And I was just like, "Hey, who are you?" Enter Ryan Omega. Do you want to talk about your experience in LJ?
So what happened was in Dying Kingdoms, which is another LARP. It was my first buffer LARP out here in LA. A person named Clayton asked for volunteers. He was the volunteer coordinator that year. And I kind of heard about Labyrinth from my roommate Kenny, who helped me start, or I helped him start La Sangra. And he's been to LOJ for many years, and he's actually called like Jareth or Jared in Vampire. Huh. So he's always been dressed that way. And I've heard about this, but I never thought that experience was for me, because I thought you have to be a certain level of attractive. You have to have a certain level of costume to be considered even like eligible to even go. So I didn't even bother. But I thought if I volunteered, then they would at least tolerate me enough that I could help out. So I went in and realized very quickly that I could not go outside without a costume, and I didn't know that. So I wore all black, but couldn't pee. So yeah, I had to borrow costumes so I was allowed to pee, because they could not break the immersion. So Saturday evening, I had to figure out, okay, what can I wear that would not be breaking, immersion breaking? So I just had a black robe. I put gauze around my eyes, looked as if my eyes were cut out, and I carried like a brown leather journal, and I went as the blind seer. And
cool.
Whatever, and somehow like my robe just kind of floated as I walked. So I would walk across the hall, and I looked like it was floating, and people would just stop and stare. And Sasha, who was like the director at the time, she said that was a brilliant costume because it was so simple but so effective. Yeah. And that's how Sin and I met.
Yeah, pretty much. So we've kind of bonded over Labyrinth of Jareth and all that jazz. And Labyrinth expanded into different departments. So I became lead choreographer for a bit. Now I'm a director. But in the times that all of that kind of expanded, there were other departments that came around. So we had the makeup department that kind of spawned off. There was the prop making department. And one of the years that we were getting prosthetics made for most of us actors, like I wear my elven ears.
No, you don't.
Yes, I know, right? Good Lord. There was another fabulous person doing some casting work. Enter Mr. Kai Norman.
Yeah, and right behind that guy was me.
I see. I was wondering when you're going to chime in.
Did you just grab him at the tattoo?
So as an explanation here, Sin was sitting right next to me, and after that joke, she gave me a very friendly hug. And unfortunately, about 2 days ago, I just got the rest of my upper half sleeve
she knew it was there
kind of put in on a tattoo. So it's still very raw and tender and susceptible to hugs, apparently.
You should have taken off your pants, man.
Yeah.
If you would have taken off your pants, probably
maybe later. I gotta warm up. I got to warm into it. I kind of got pulled in by. I used to go to anime conventions a lot, and that was when I was starting out. Was making costumes for myself for a little bit, and then I started making costumes for other people because people were like, "That's really cool. Where did you buy that?" And my usual response was, "I didn't buy it. I made it." And they're like, "What? give me a business card. And I'm like, I don't have one. So I went and got business cards, and then that wasn't the problem anymore. And then some of my friends in the anime community were like, hey, if you like costuming and cosplay and things like that, and you want to learn more about building some of the other aspects of things, we know this theater company that does this show, and you should totally kind of like drop by and see if you can help out, kind of thing. So I did so, and then suddenly I got sucked in, and I made a whole bunch of cool friends, and somewhere along the lines I started to get to know these nerds. What's actually really interesting, though, is I knew these other two people more by proximity than anything else. We never got to really talk that much, and while both of them were very aware of who I was, because we were in different departments and doing different things, there was this kind of almost like high school like separation where, like, you know, the woodshop kids are not talking to the actor kids who are also not talking not talking to the cheerleaders and things like that. And so I never really talked to these guys until a couple of years ago, I got into LARPing again. And then I started up on Dystopia Rising, and after a little bit, some of my friends were like, you should check out this other game called Twin Mask, which is a fantasy one. And Ryan was there. And I was like, oh, hey. And that was the kind of the first opportunity for him and I, outside of the hustle and bustle and crazy business of Labyrinth of Jareth, for us to actually hang out and get to know each other better. And we just got along really, really well. And then he told me that Sin was into LARPing as well. And that was an entirely different side of Sin that I did not know at all. And so that again was like another bonding moment, because, you know, at the time in LOJ, she was so focused and busy on making sure everything's working and handling everything. She seemed like a very very intent and focused on the things that were her passions, which were, you know, the dancing and the professional aspects and the performance. And that is very alien to me. So I was like, oh, we don't really have anything in common. And she looks like she's going to, you know, murder someone. So I should probably leave her alone.
At that point, I probably was.
That's very logical, yeah.
And so, once again, LARP has very, very directly for me brought me to two very, very good friends, because I got to know Sin particularly well once we started the podcast. And you guys have like one of the first time Sin and I got to actually hang out and shoot the shit, being like casually as like normal people rather than crazy people with things on fire and trying to make a performance happen. Yeah. And you guys have that as an episode. We have for you an episode, which is the one where they interview me before they actually go, you know what, you should probably stick around. I don't know why. I mean, with this crappy accent and everything.
That's cool. So you made the props. And both of you were in this, Cynthia and Ryan, you both were in the same department? Or were you in different departments as well? So
for me, I was more like the guy overseeing the running of everything. Okay. So producer. I was the producer. Mm-hmm. And a lot of what I was doing was making sure that everything ran smoothly. If things did not run smoothly, and it was not the domain of Sean Strider, I would have to catch all those things and make sure that they worked. Right. But also along with that, eventually I started to rise and do more than just paperwork. I also became one of the writers for the event, and I started to introduce elements into the event that were more LARPy. Yeah. So when I started doing that, like introducing the post office, having a set of volunteers called Cypher Black, that their job was to help out with several different departments, but also role play. And then at 2 years ago, I held court, and that was pretty well received. So anything that was more interactive, that the audience and the patrons were able to influence the outcome, that was my design.
So you're pretty much making sure no one left.
Yes.
Let's get into some questions. What do you guys think?
Yeah.
Yes.
All right. I think I remember how to read, so we're going to see how this goes.
Don't forget to dig deep and give it a good shuffle.
Wow.
I was talking about the hat.
The next one.
We were talking about your pants, though.
Oh,
I know.
That's all I've been thinking about this whole time.
Kai is still wearing pants.
Kai, at some point, Kai will take these pants off.
Will I?
Yes.
Will I?
Yes.
I mean,
let's laser cut them off.
eventually I'll take them off. But will I take them off in the feed? That's the real question.
Okay, question number 1 from Christian Keller. What is the one memory of a moment you carry with you to today from a LARP in the past? One that helped to confirm your love of the hobby and you still share to this day?
Ooh, I got an answer for that one.
Go for it.
All right. So a long time ago, I played a Malkavian that was supposed to be a one-shot character that I didn't care about, like a throwaway character. And his name's Calvin DeLargo. And he spoke like this. And if that sounds familiar, it's because he became this same character for Anesidora. And this character, the character concept was a Malkavian loved his grandfather so much that he embraced him. No, even though he was old, because I didn't want to play a character that was young and pretty and sexy and powerful. I just wanted like a good, normal old man.
Like he took on his identity?
No, like he embraced his grandfather so he would to keep him around.
Oh, got it.
So, Ryan, you were playing the grandfather in this.
Yeah, I was playing a grandfather.
Okay, gotcha. Cool.
And so somehow, because he was old or appeared old, he just got to say whatever he want because he got to be crotchety. So even with vampires of influence and princes and elders, he just said whatever was on his mind, and they excused him because he was an old man and a Malkavian. He's not going to be.
I don't think being Malkavian has anything to do with it. I think that's just old age.
But he was blunt as heck, and he just called it as it is. But he also advised princes like, "Hey, what you're doing is really, really not good." Sometimes someone would call it stupid, but I'm just telling this just so we have a way to make a decision, and it's totally fine. After 10 months, he was killed.
Oh man,
he was killed. Unfortunately, in a way that I was not happy with, because he was killed like unceremoniously because the storyteller didn't think the concept should be around because he was too nice, so he just killed him. In private, like not even resolution. And so when another storyteller came in, she said, a player's coming from DC and we want to do something special for him. Because in One World by Night, there's a lot of there's chronicles all over the country. So he came in from Washington, DC. He happened to be in the Oakland and Berkeley area. So she wanted to do something special for him. And his special ability was to bring back a spirit. And so she decided to bring back mine. And at first, when she explained to dress up as Calvin, I didn't understand what she wanted me to do. So I thought, okay, I'm going to dress up as Calvin. Maybe it's going to be like a flashback or whatever. And she said, stand in front of this door. I'm like, all right, I'm standing in front of this door. And then I said, I still don't know what I'm going to do. And 4 seconds before she opened the door, I was like, what am I supposed to do? It's like, okay, you're Calvin. You came back from the dead. Go. And I'm like, what? So I opened the door, and the only thing I said was, hey, the door is open. And I remember this very clearly. Several people just grabbed me and said, oh my God, Calvin, you're back. And there was a lot of people crying out of character because they had missed him so much.
Wow.
So I had the opportunity to keep him in game. And instead of saying yes, because this was like a great character to play, I said, no, I can't. I can't, because that is not the natural order of things. Things that are dead need to stay dead. Because that is very important.
That's a lot of irony coming from a vampire.
Yes.
But I agree.
But
it's a Malkavian.
It's a Malkavian. And they asked, what did you do? What happened when you died? It's like, well, it was cold when I died, but I remembered this place and it was full of rainbows and I could eat things and I could have ice cream whenever I wanted. And I just described the afterlife of being a fairy, like just so beautifully that when it was time when the game was going to end, everyone gave me a hug. They didn't want me to go. Like, people were trying to physically restrain me so I couldn't go. But I said, I have to go. I have to go. And as I left through the door, they were narrating that the door starts to close. And a Toreador elder who's been playing around for 5 to 7 years starts running towards the door. willing to end his character right then and there. And I said, Michael, why? Why would you do that? And he said, you don't understand. Calvin won vampire because he died happy. I will go through life unable to die happy like Calvin. And I'm like,
Wow.
whoa.
Wait, so did that character actually take himself out then?
No, he tried to bid chops and he lost. He missed the door, but Calvin ended with the happy existence. And because so many people cried, and I asked if everyone was okay. This was before we understood bleed. They said they were just so happy to have like a character that they loved back, just for a little while. And I was like, oh, that's what made me like love like vampires. Like there are people that when bleed is like a wonderful thing.
Was that like one of the first characters that you've made in Vampire?
It was actually probably my.
It was your very first, right?
No, it was like
No?
my third or fourth. Calvin was a throwaway character.
Jumping off of what the question that Ryan answered. So it's from my first LARP ever in Vegas, and I was playing La Sombra. And I didn't really understand the powers so much, but I hung out with Jimmy Reckett, who was one of the storytellers at the time. So he was sitting there with my like player sheet and being like, so this is this power, and this is how you kind of use this, and this. And I was like, I really don't get this. But at any rate, I had one of the I'm going to call it an artifact right now because I can't remember what the word is, but it's basically like a chess piece, like in the big game of Vampire. And
Like a wonder?
Yeah, I guess. Yeah, like one of the clans needed it for one of their subplots, and so they
Like a significant like artifact of the storyline.
Yeah,
Okay, cool.
yeah. And so I had it for the majority of the game, and the storytellers are like, you really need to like try to pass that off to like them. And I was like, oh, but then no one's come up to me, and I don't know what to do. Like, actually, like try to like flaunt it in front of the group, and I like kind of like toggle it between my fingers and be like, ooh, look what I got. But no one wanted to come up to me, and I actually found out later on it's because like some of the majority of the clan was kind of intimidated to come up to me. But at any rate, one actually came up to me. So the clan was the Carpathians that had to come up to La Sombra. And one of the Carpathians came up to me, and Jimmy had just informed me of one of my powers, which I will tell you in a moment when this story kicks off. So he comes up to me and says, hey, but what can I give you that would help, do the trade with the artifact? And I said, oh, well, and I looked at Jimmy, and Jimmy's like egging me on, like, just do it. And I was like, okay, well, so tell me about one of your fondest mortal memories. And the player kind of stops, does the out of character symbol and goes, do you really want me to like launch into a whole story, or do you want me to just kind of like sum it up? And I was like, no, just go for the story, because he had no idea what was about to like happen to him. So he gives me this long, beautiful story about his mortal love and how she was and how he misses her and that she died this horrible death, and now he's living eternity missing her, blah, blah, blah. And I looked at Jimmy and I was like, Jimmy, you're really gonna make me do this? He's like, just do it. And I was like, all right, forgetful mind. And he was like, wait, no. So for those of you who don't know, Vampire Forgetful Mind is basically my character took that fond memory from him. My character is also a vampire, so she collects fond memories. So the moment that happened, he was like we had to do, I think, 3 different chop scenarios. He threw down 2 points of willpower. When he lost, like the man like got down on his knees and was like, I'm not going to do this in the mic, but he was like, no! Sort of a deal.
Cool. Very cool. Next question. I like that voice. I think I'm going to continue.
This is like kind of scary. This is like the Hunger Games. Like,
Yeah, we have a lot of questions. A lot of people put in questions, and we do not have time for everyone to answer every one of these. So we're going to try and do like kind of a good mix of things here.
Zach Allen Church Dellinger. That's his full name? That's the whole name?
That is his whole name.
Mm-hmm.
Very cool name. Here's one taken from my own beginning experiences. What's some of the best moments where you felt you made someone else's LARP experience better? Example, would be doing something as a PC or NPC that really sold a scene or drove some RP for another player. I'd like to add, and how can we as players have moments like this? How can we better other players' experiences?
So for me, I remember as Sicarial in Twin Mass, so the Archduke, dealing with a new player played by Izzy Spring. Her name was Ember. And as her character, she brought out her guitar and started playing and singing. And during that particular game, Sicarial was so focused on trying to hold a welcoming all of the nations to Solace party, but everything seems to have failed. Every time that he tried to hold something within the party, it got delayed, it got invaded, it got attacked. Sicarial was starting to break down because he was trying so hard to plan a party and nothing was going right. And so he saw Ember and said, your song is so beautiful. Can you play this for everybody? And she said, absolutely. And I'm like, okay. So later, when things get worse for Sicarial trying to plan this party, the only saving grace at that point was Ember performing. And so as he is completely broken, just his party was a total disaster, Ember takes the stage and there is fighting breaking out like 20 feet away from her. And Sicarial is just so upset, and she decides to start playing anyway. And so she starts performing, and as people are rushing out and like fighting 20 feet away from her, like just watching the scene was insane. It was almost like she was a real life bard. As soon as she started performing, the fighting began to cease, and then more people started to come towards her. And so she had this beautiful moment where she stopped fighting because she was actually performing.
Like, it had nothing to do with powers. Like, it was like her music was actually just soothing people. Period.
Yeah. So
that's cool.
So that was, I guess, a moment where I was able to facilitate her role play, and then I also gave her military influence. Like, I said, thank you. You now have guards.
That's funny. Yeah. I think if I was a bard, I'd probably actually bring like a war drum and do the opposite.
Yeah. A war drum.
Shed some blood.
Yeah.
Play some metal.
Yeah. Just like hit with percussion. It's like, hit them harder. Yeah, right. Boom, boom. Give it to them. Boom.
Throw the foam sword away. Get a real one.
I have some down in my garage if you need them.
Very cool. Very cool. By Echo. Okay, Echo asks, best advice for starting boffer creation.
Yeah, so I wrote it shorthand because I wasn't sure who was reading and stuff.
Okay.
So I totally apologize. That was entirely my bad.
Is it like how to start getting ideas for different designs?
No, more just kind of advice on how to build LARP weapons and things like that.
Like where to start.
If you're kind of starting out, and I do have some tips on this, so that this works out pretty well. You should try and find some like rubberized spray paint. Things like Plastidip are very useful. You'll want to get some good glue. The better the glue you use, the better your LARP weapon is going to be. I'm not one that makes like the whole duct tape weapons and stuff, so I really like to have like a much more artistic look to my weapons. And I'm sure, like in some of the games that I played in, that's kind of the norm. Like the more artistic versions. When you're doing more of the heavier combat games like Belgarth and things like that, then you'll have to default to the more durable methods rather than the ones that kind of look more artistic. But my advice is strictly in the lighter combat elements where you want it to look nice and you want it to last, but you're not swinging for the fences, as it were. So a really good core for your LARP weapons is a golf club, actually. Find a golf club that has a fiberglass or carbon fiber core. Don't use metal ones because a metal one will bend when you hit someone with it, and you'll end up with a really funny-looking weapon.
I was in the thrift store the other day. I saw they're selling them for like $1.
They do, yeah. Most thrift stores, you can find them super cheap, and you can just cut cut the head off, make it to the appropriate length that you want it, make it about at least an inch shorter than you actually want the blade to be, because you're going to have it a little bit longer on the end, so you have it safer. You want it to be a flat cut, not at an angle or anything like that, because you're not trying to stab someone with a hypodermic needle. Cap it off with some duct tape or something like that. The best glue that I would suggest is a contact adhesive. A lot of people use DAP. Personally, I feel that DAP is very available, but it is not super good.
Is that spray stuff?
I'm not sure, honestly.
I'm
but
a big fan of the cement.
A contact adhesive cement is the type that you take it out of the can and you paint it on. And you use a brush to paint it on. You wait for both surfaces to dry, and you've painted both surfaces. And once it's dry, you stick it together like a sandwich. You press it together a little bit, and then you leave it alone for a while, and it'll bond and hold. The brand that I like to use is called Barge. It has like a bear on the front of it. It's really good. It's also not super legal in California. So it's a little tricky to get a hold of sometimes. There's an environment safe version and a non-environment safe version, or two different safety versions. I really like the one that has the red and yellow tin. Use it in a very well ventilated area or outside, and while it's drying, don't sit right next to it while it's drying or anything like that. Again, leave it outside when you're inside, and come back 5, 10, 15 minutes later. And then you can stick your stuff together. Your weapon is going to be made from foam, more than likely. So the types of foam that you can use, a lot of people like to use that kind of EVA floor mat stuff, and that's good. It's very cheap and very available. I would suggest trying to find a place that sells other kinds of foams, because you're going to want something that is very similar to EVA foam, but a little softer. The brand that I'm aware of is called L200, and there's I think either a softer or a more dense version called L400. But L200 is a little bit softer than EVA, and it means that if I use the same thickness that I would for a heavy combat engagement weapon, so you're using about an inch minimum of thickness of foam on the striking surface, and on some weapons that only needs to be one edge of your weapon. But I've hit people and I've hit myself a lot to make sure that they're safe. And if you have about an inch of the L200, it is. I'm using a lot of uhs. I'm realizing that. Sorry, guys. So,
you did it again.
Yeah, I used
question
it
though.
well.
Question though.
Yeah.
Is there a actual standard measurement that has to be on each side, or thickness for a general?
It varies from the game to game.
Okay.
Every game has a different rule. Yeah. I go as thin as maybe a quarter of an inch on some of my builds. I prefer maybe a quarter of an inch is what I like to do.
Okay.
And I like to go up to about an inch on the blade length. Let's take it from the beginning. You've got your core. Once you've got your core, you'll have your foam. Pattern out what you're going to cut and then cut it. If you have access to power tools, then a belt sander and a bandsaw are very, very good tools for cutting and grinding foam and shaping it to your needs. Once you have your shape done, you're going to cut a channel in the foam. That you have your core, you paint your core and your foam with the glue, stick it all together. After that, I suggest heating it, carve the details on your foam with a Dremel or something like that. Then hit it with a heat gun to kind of seal the foam. Wait a little while. Maybe 12 to 24 hours for the glue to fully dry. Hit it with Plasti Dip and then hit it with some acrylic paint. And then you're probably good to go. If you want to spruce things up a little further, you can take the handle off of the golf club core and sink it into a piece of pine wood and then cap that with some foam on the bottom, and you end up with a nice wood handle that's kind of like thicker and more comfortable to hold than a golf club handle. But yeah, those are my general bits of advice for working with it, and practice, because the first time you do it, it might suck a little or a lot, and then you do it again and it's going to suck a little less, and you keep practicing and learning what you don't like, and then learning how to make it better as you go along.
You learn what doesn't work really fast.
Yeah, there's an adage that I really, really enjoy, which is the master has failed more times than the apprentice has ever attempted.
Let's change it up a bit, guys. Yeah. So here, Ryan will pick the next question.
Okay.
Truth or dare as your character?
What?
Oh.
Who put that in there?
Me.
Nice.
Truth or dare as your character? Okay. Well,
Your pants are already off.
Since our pants are already off, dares are going to be limited. So I'll go truth for Sicariel of Paloma from Twin Mask.
Oh, man.
I'm not good at these things. Ever.
If you can answer this question, what's your character's deepest secret?
Oh, okay.
Oh, that's a little...
No,
isn't that a little foigy?
It's a little foigy, but
If you can't.
no, I can. I could answer this. Sicariel's deepest secret probably would be that he's not in love with his wife.
Oh.
But that's because he and Lady Clarabelle, when they agreed to get married, realized that it was to secure better positions for their respective families. So right now, as a result of their marriage, they have two of the most powerful houses in Dace, and if they wanted to take over Dace and cause a civil war, they can, but neither of them want to. And right now they're trying for a child, but Sicariel has not been able to produce a child, and this is causing an undue amount of stress because he's not in love with his wife, but the thing is they're like best friends, but they're not in love, and they get that. But the fact that he cannot produce an heir is just more stress, because without that, there's no way to actually seal those two houses together.
Eek.
And so that might be fine down game, but some people have figured this out already.
Okay, this one is from Nathan Sharp. Do you have any recommendations for helping players get readjusted to a LARP community when they come back from an extended break from a LARP?
So I as I admitted a little earlier, I had about a good 10-year space in between my LARP experiences. And I would say the best way to get back into a LARP is find one your friends can't shut the hell up about. And that's probably a good one to get back into. Don't go in solo. Find some friends. Establish kind of a safety net or comfort blanket, or however you want to describe it. Have friends with you, or people that you enjoy the company of already that are attending with you. Either because they already go, or they're going to experience it for the first time with you, or maybe they want to start LARPing again after a break as well. Either way, that degree of having one or two friends as a solidarity aspect will make you a lot more comfortable getting out of your skin and getting into the game, because you're worrying less about real life, and you're going to have the time to relax and feel at ease and get back into having fun.
Do you guys think that you would be playing the characters the same way that you are playing them now if you haven't met each other?
I feel like over this podcast, I've definitely become more educated in things, spitball and play around with ideas with my co-hosts and things. And through the guests that we've had, I feel like I've learned a lot that I had no idea about some of the depth of LARP when I first started this. I almost feel like you two kind of knew a bit more of this coming along, since you were the ones who wanted to do a podcast and already had an idea of the depth of LARP. For me, I was not approaching it nearly so deeply, and I feel like you guys have definitely kind of given me a different standard to attain to since we've been talking about things so much.
Well, I'd say that for my LARP career, I've only been LARPing for like a full year. It's going to be in June, like consistently, but I've done other like offshoots, so 3 years ish, like between 1 and 3 years. So I'm fairly new to the community as well. But in terms of like the commitment, like Ryan, I would say actually really like kind of inspired me to do it like full time, because like I've told him about some of the one-offs that I've done. He's like, why don't you just join something and like just do it fully? And then I talked to a couple of other friends, Brian Knight, who was the one who originally told me about La Sangra, and then Ryan was like, just do it, just come, like I'll go with you, and like let's do the thing. And so I got involved with La Sangra, and then of course Jason, having introduced me, Jason Carl, who had introduced me to LARP like as a whole. I feel like I've had umpteenth conversation with him about being a new player in the community. So it's not that necessarily that I knew like everything that was going on, but a lot of the experiences that I had, Jason kind of kept me abreast on like, okay, well that's what's called bleed. This is what you're feeling, and this is like, oh, that's actually really valuable as a new player. I didn't think that that's like kind of what was going on for a new player. So like I suggested to him like a mentoring session, because it was really hard as a new player to walk into a one-off, understand every single freaking rule, and then like have to be like a rule monger with like everybody else. I was like turning to the next person next to me. I was like, how do I do this? I don't know how to do it.
I think it's safe to say it's pretty, and I mean, it's kind of intimidating. Like
it is.
Yeah.
It was.
I mean, you're literally jumping into a world that you have
you're
no
jumping
idea
into a tank of sharks who like know all the things, and I'm a little piranha sitting here like, fuck. I can act, like I can costume, but like in terms of knowing rules, I was like, I don't know what to do. But again, with the podcast, it's actually really helped, as Kai had mentioned, springboard some of the ideas that I kind of wanted to venture off with my character and fail and succeed at my own risk, I suppose.
I think for me, like the biggest influence that they have had for me as just a person, they have given me things to think about in terms of what are people needing to hear. What are things that people want advice on? What are things that are of concern to the LARP community? So instead of taking things from a very player approach, like I'm just one of the players, because I've been playing since 2000, and people often ask, like for me, like the reason why this podcast even started was because Sin was the one that bugged me to.
Oh yeah, I would assume that you're a pillar of inspiration,
right? And it's still weird to hear that that's what I am for. I mean, that's what they tell me. Is I think they're just being nice.
Side note, that was a really funny conversation how this podcast actually started. Just putting that up.
But now on being on some of these shows, like on Maze Arcana, and then also having this podcast and being a presence, there are people that have never LARPed, but they're asking me questions. People from people who are very, very timid and just knew that it became a resource because of this. But even also well-known geek celebs who have like lots of followers are asking me about just LARP and what is it and how do I join one. And it's thanks to these guys that I have that capacity to do this. And, you know, live action role play is, I feel very humbled that we have become a platform for people to ask questions, and I'm grateful that we have an audience. Like we have 24 to 30 questions to choose from, and I was worried that we would just have 5 or 6.
Yeah, same.
You know, so
we've got easily 30, if not more.
Oh yeah, this
which is lovely.
Yeah,
it's great. From my perspective, someone who like yesterday I played like Dungeons and Dragons, Robotech, you know, the tabletop games back in the day. And quite a lot, but like still, like when I tell you guys I want to join a LARP with you guys, like I'm dead serious. But at the same time, it's kind of scary, like from my point of view, honestly. Like That's why even like when I was talking to you the other night, I was like, before I do you think I should join like you guys on a couple previous LARPs before, you know, and it's intimidating, you know, it's because even though I am familiar somewhat in like the imaginary world, I don't know what the hell a LARP is. Only from what you guys tell me. I can put together what this world is in my head, but you're just not going to know until you jump in it.
Putting yourself out there in an environment like physically, it's like going to a club or talking to someone that you find attractive across the bar or anything like that. When you're physically actually putting yourself out there, it takes a certain degree of confidence and investment that some people can seem a little insurmountable, which is actually, it kind of falls back on what I previously said, like having a safer environment that you know you've got a few friends that you can, if all of it goes to crap, you can take off from the LARP with your friend and go have a cheeseburger and chill out, and you don't have to play the game. Like having a couple of people like that you can fall out on, or fall back on, is super important, I feel. The game by its very nature is a social game. And therefore, why wouldn't you bring people that you like with you to experience that?
Okay, this question is from Joe Hines. It's for Kai.
Oh.
Do you find it more or less difficult to make props for yourself as compared to making them for other people? I find that when I am making things for myself, that I tend to get into an analysis paralysis stage where I have trouble getting started or finishing because it's not right for me. I don't have the same issue when I'm working on things for other people.
One, I'm actually really happy that Joe's question got put forward because he asked it a couple of times on a couple of different formats because he was super excited to find out about this one, and I really appreciate the enthusiasm on it. As I said, I like talking about prop building. So, Joe, here is my perspective on that. Weirdly enough, I have almost the flip there. I know what I want. And I'm also almost more forgiving on myself when it's not for someone else. If I'm building something for myself, I have this idea of what I want, and I start building it. And as it's going, my aesthetic and my taste is evolving as it's going. I'm like, oh, I kind of like that. And then I try something, and I'm like, no, I don't like that. I get rid of it. I change it, and I keep going with it. If I'm making something for a client, the client already knows what they want, but they're not standing there with me in that kind of creative element where, sometimes an artist just starts drawing a drawing and they don't know what they're going to start drawing until they've finished their drawing and it was something entirely different. And when you're working for a client, you don't get to go creative like that. You don't, not unless they actually give you permission. And even then, even if they give you permission, they don't really give you permission because there are things that they want and there are things that they don't want. But when you're making something for yourself, you have the true freedom to do whatever the hell you like. And ultimately, if you don't like it, don't wear it. Start again. As I said, the more you do it, the better you get. Like Jake from Adventure Time is like, sucking at something is the first step to being sort of kind of good at something. Like you just keep going with it and keep working with it until you like it.
From Nolan Goodyear. Hey, we know that guy.
Oh, awesome.
Hey, Austin.
Pick your favorite PC you've ever portrayed and lay bare the mistakes you made. Were they intentional for the purpose of the story? Or how were you able to take that mistake and make it serve the story?
I don't make mistakes.
Of course he does, right? Yeah, I don't either.
It's Bob Ross. There's no mistakes. There's only happy accidents.
Yeah,
right.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Let me see. I
Lesbian Crimson.
I got a story
Ross,
of
right?
epic failure for one of my characters that forced him to retire. So my very political character, Virgo Reese, when the Bruja clan in LA did an all call, and an all call. I don't know if that still applies to Bruja Clan right now in One World by Night, but an all call is basically the entire Bruja Clan needs to respond to this call, and they did an all call for someone to take over the domain of LA because the Ventrue Prince at the time, Seth, was a tyrant and they could not deal with him anymore. And so Virgo, being who he is, said, okay, I will come down with people from Northern California. We are going to respond to this all call because you asked for it. So a bunch of us from like Sacramento and Oakland and San Francisco drove like 6, 7, 8 hours to this LA game because I responded to this all call. And as soon as I arrived and I was going to handle business because they requested, they said, no, you can't kill the prince. I'm like, wait, what? No, we like our prince. We are defending the prince. And I said, you asked for all of us to come down and take care of it. And they sold me out. They sold Virgo out. I brought people all the way from Northern California to handle this issue, and they sold Virgo out. And at this point, I was trying to declare praxis. And as soon as I tried, no one wanted to die, so they all backed out, every single one of them, because they thought it was more important for them to stay alive than to replace the prince. And at that point, I left in complete humiliation. I was forced to be bloodbound, and Virgo was left unplayable. This is the same character that did the political thing with the Justicariat.
Yeah.
And it was a horrible way to end, and it taught me a very horrible lesson, which is if people bitch and complain and are not willing to do things for it, do not save them. Let them save themselves. Being a hero just to help a bunch of complainers who will not do things for themselves, they deserve what they got.
That's more than a game lesson, my friend.
It was horrible.
Absolutely.
It was a very, like, after that game, I couldn't role play for a couple of months because I was just because I felt like I disappointed so many people, especially when they drove like that far.
That feels like a pretty souring experience. Like pulling a whole bunch of people to come play with you and for an event that someone else kind of planned out, and then they back out and you're kind of left like, well, that was really worth it for everyone coming by. Thank you for wasting our time. Right.
And I think the harder part was no one really wanted to hang with me afterwards. There was no aftercare. Like, the only thing I was thankful for is, like, well, you didn't cause bloodshed. Because I didn't go all the way through. But the problem was that doing the bloodshed would have not only solved nothing, but it's not what they wanted. So if I wanted, I could have been a tyrant and just said, fuck y'all. I'm going to roll over because I'm going to roll this entire domain because you asked for an all call. But the only thing Virgo can do is like, listen, rest of the Bruja clan all over the world, LA just called this all call and they stopped me. So fuck them.
Yeah.
The Bruja in LA do not exist. I'm out.
I'm surprised you didn't do that, to be honest.
Yeah. I did.
Oh, you did?
I did.
Okay.
And for a while, they couldn't get the cooperation of anyone else from anywhere around the world because the Bruja in LA were punks.
Yeah.
Wow.
So that was Virgo's mic drop, but he left in disgrace.
Yeah. I see. It confuses me why he was even like disgraced on that. It's like, he was just doing the proper thing of like responding to a call,
right?
But but
the clan sold me out, like all of them. That's what hurt.
It's a gigantic.
I'm surprised
you.
Like I'm genuinely surprised, especially with the reputation of like Bruja. For those unaware of vampire politics, the Bruja are the kind of like slightly more violent, thuggish kind of types. They have a lot of powers that involve basically taking a lot of punches or shotguns, and then punching through things like people and walls and
they're also more
things like that.
brotherly though. They're very a familial clan. Like that's like it's like one for all sort of a deal. Like so to have them all kind of like back away from you.
They called me the outsider.
Yeah, that's not.
That's what like hurt. And I was like the
Was
elder.
your character the same clan?
Yeah, I was definitely the same clan.
That seems more like a some kind of intentional coup aspect. I'm honestly surprised that it didn't end up with you guys just the people who showed up for the old call, and it's like, wait, you changed your mind? Okay, well, pick one of your own that made this mistake because they need to be punished now, and put all of the blame on that person.
Yeah,
like, well, I guess you're getting squished.
Yeah,
seems fair.
Seems fair, but I just couldn't.
Yeah,
I just couldn't.
Sin, do you have any like onesie PJ kind of like Kigurumi things?
What?
James was saying he has like a Kigurumi like onesie thing. Do you have one? I have one.
I have a onesie.
I bet it's a cat.
Yeah,
it is.
Okay,
boom.
Yeah,
nailed. Mic drop.
Let's do 2 more questions.
Okay.
Mine, I have one. It's a like a Godzilla kind of like giant monster thing. It's my kaiju suit.
We should do a onesie.
Yeah.
Everyone wears a onesie.
Hi.
Ryan, do you have a onesie or a Kigurumi?
I actually don't have a Kigurumi. I have my Stitch bathrobe, which like I've worn at parties.
Close.
Like that was close enough to a Kigurumi. I wore it at Erika Ishii's like streaming party. So it passed enough as a Kigurumi that it was acceptable.
Okay. Well, what I'm hearing is we need to get Ryan a Kigurumi. Listeners, we should start a poll or something. Like send us messages and let us know what you think, and whatever gets the top options, we will make sure that he gets it, and we will take photos of him wearing it.
I mean, considering that you're the only one that doesn't have one, you're just the target.
Yep. All right. So what's our next question?
Next question.
To be fair, Kai is not the one he's still wearing pants.
That's true.
That is very true.
And
I am
he's
appalled.
getting up.
I'm appalled.
He's getting up.
Screw you guys.
He's adjusting his mic. He's
It's weird because of
doing the thing.
There's so much pants in this situation. I can't read. My vision's going.
Yay! Oh, Pokemon! Really?
Oh, nice.
Oh, okay.
I got my Pokeball.
A nice.
Your Pokeballs.
Nice balls, bro.
I know.
Really?
Coming.
That was lowbrow.
I see you did that. I like that.
You guys.
Well, to be fair,
what's our question?
That is where
Next
my bras
question.
went.
Next question from Scott Jackson. How does the community typically feel about breaking races/strain?
Let me see that one.
I read that correctly this time.
I can explain that. Okay, so how does the community typically feel about breaking races/strains? Example: there was a Daywalker, Lascarian in Dystopia Rising. I've encountered orcs in wow, I can't say that word. Tuxedos. Tuxedos? What's a tuxedo? Tuxedos in fantasy video games and things like that. Basically, genre breaking. Scott, that's an excellent question. And two, more focused around the idea of a common stereotype for or tradition for a character, and then trying to intentionally, I like to call it counterculture, where you take that role play of like the expectation of how they act, and then you put it on its head. And personally, I've seen some counterculture pretty interesting. I've seen other counterculture where I'm like, I don't really think you even thought behind that. You just wanted to be something that your character wasn't, or like your character's type of people weren't, and instead you decided to basically be kind of like a copycat, like, oh, I'm an elf, but I think I'm an orc, or those kinds of analogies. And would
it be like making a character and then just acting totally unorthodox to what that race would usually do? Well,
that's the idea, yeah. And for those who are unaware of the whole strain comment, there in Dystopia Rising, there's no races. They're called strains because everyone's kind of evolved from different strains of this like zombie virus that have mutated the people who are alive versus just turned the dead into the Walking Dead. And so you're allowed to be strainist, so you can be shitty to people in the game about what strain they are, like the type of like creature that they've mutated into, but there is zero racism. You can't start doing like real world racism and like calling out like people's hereditary traits and things like that, because obviously that's a little too like realistic life, and
So if like
we
I
don't
went on
want
the
that
battlefield
in
and
the
like
game.
threw cat litter at Cynthia profusely, that'd be bad.
Well, I mean, she is a cat, so
That's so mean.
It's racist. Strainist.
Strange.
maybe I don't know. But yeah, so I feel like I kind of broke down that a little bit. Sorry about kind of grabbing that there.
No, that's great.
I totally know what that question is. So what do you guys think about that?
Well, I kind of think about. I think it's the equivalent of a Ventrue acting like a Bruja. So that would be the equivalent in Vampire.
That's the vampire terms.
But I kind of agree with Jason Carl, who said that there are stereotypes for a reason, and you should be able to have and you should be playing within that stereotype, because you also have to think about the sire and why did that sire embrace that person if that person is not like anyone else. So are you doing this because you want to be a special snowflake?
And that is one of my favorite terms on that. You always have to check yourself and be like, am I being special just for special sake, or am I doing it for a really interesting and well thought out good piece of role play and a story that I can tell with this difference of perspective?
So I'll bounce off of that idea. The first tabletop game I ever played was Changeling, and I vehemently
Yay, Faye.
Hey, it was a good game. Damn it!
No, I was just kind of liking to do the rhyme of yay, Faye.
Oh, okay. Anyhow,
Cat litter.
Damn.
Sorry, what? What?
You know what?
Huh? Okay,
I have
go for
flaws, and I'm not afraid to use them.
Sin? Go ahead.
Anyhow,
on.
so I played an Ishu who I really wanted to have the true love merit, and I was like, when am I gonna meet my true love? When am I gonna meet my true love? When am I gonna meet my true love? And my storyteller is like, okay, so your true love is a red cap, and so people who don't know red cap, they're like they kind of like the nasty orc looking type guys who have like metal like stapled to their face and like ears hanging off of them, and just like really, and I was like, really, you're gonna make this my true love? And my storyteller was like, yes, get over it.
Yup.
But what was really cool about the red cap that he created was he played against the stereotype of a red cap. So like red cap is much like a Bruja, where they're just all blood, gut, kill, all this stuff.
Aren't they called red caps because they reportedly bathe their hats in blood?
Yes.
Ooh.
Well played. So this
That's
particular red cap did not want to play into the stereotype of his Kith. Kithane? Kith?
I think it's Kith.
Yeah. Okay.
Just make sure you're not taking the Kith.
Right. So it was a really interesting dynamic of the Ishu, the storyteller, falling in love with this red cap. So when they were running around together, everyone's like, "What the?" But like they had a actually really loving relationship, and it was just very different. So I'm kind of for it if it supports the story, like you said. If it's just to be a special snowflake because you wanted to try something and it doesn't support the story, I don't think that works.
Yeah.
The actual particular call out there of talking about a Daywalker Lascarian for Dystopia Rising, one of the types of people that you can be, the strains, are called Lascarians. They're cannibals and they live underground, and they're very light sensitive. And as a requirement, if it's during the day, you have to wear protective goggles, and you have to try and cover as much of your body as possible, or at the very least, kind of hide in the shade a huge amount. And if you actually have any kind of part of your body exposed to the sunlight, or you're not wearing your goggles during the day, you actually, using your skills in the game, cost you more of your resources to do. So your character, the equivalent of mana, mind, is more of it is expended. I've seen a couple of these Daywalkers. Some of them have done it quite well. Some of them are literally doing it just to be contrary. The one that we have in our game, who is a super cool person. Started off, it was, kind of a little edgy, kind of like, I like pain kind of attitude. And it was like, okay, well, I mean, that's a decision that went with. But the character has been evolving, and there's been a lot more depth applied to that. And also, to my understanding, that character has actually been developing weird mental issues where basically, like, being out in the sun screws with their head a little bit. And so they start going kind of loopy, and it's been creating a little bit of a different kind of roleplay going on. Double check. Am I being a special snowflake, or am I trying to tell an interesting perspective and story?
You mind if I chime in just a little snippet? So, with my experiences in LARP, which is 0, being a game master for many games in a tabletop game growing up, typically when people act, how I described it, unorthodox to their chosen culture.
Yeah,
I guess,
going
or strain,
counterculture.
Excuse me.
Mm-hmm. No, I mean, okay.
Yeah.
Let's stick with culture because strain is only specifically for one game.
Yeah. So if someone chose blue and started acting red, I'd kill him. I'd kill him. Like, why don't you just choose red then, man?
Yeah.
I'll work with them a little bit. I'm not that asshole.
Yeah,
but
yeah.
I mean,
but if you're doing something grossly exaggerated,
if you're going to choose lawful good, then act lawful good.
But there are things built into your character that plays against that, right? So like you have merits and flaws that like you actually have to play towards, and if you play against it, like it's up to your storyteller to tabletop
to
wise.
kill them.
Well, not necessarily kill them, but like you're taking stuff away from them. So like I know when Changeling, like when I would act against so issues, for example, always had to be there for the story. If my character chose to not tell a story, and this was me as a beginner player, I was like, no, I don't want to tell that story. My storyteller was like, really? Spend a willpower. Because you actually are going against what you're
going against your character's nature.
So I started learning as a player, crap, I got to learn to tell the story.
There are some games that actually encourage and incentivize you to follow the path of how your character's bloodline kind of focuses.
Okay, guys. So the timer's running short, so we're gonna do a speed run here. So. One by one, we'll be asking and answering these questions.
So from Aniki Rose, what got you into LARPing and what keeps you LARPing?
All right. What got me into LARPing? I think I already mentioned it. My trifecta, Jason, Brian, and Ryan. Oh, that's awkward. And what keeps me going is all the amazing experiences and people that I get to see. And honestly, the amazing relationship that I'm building with my sister.
Aw.
Cool. Aw, that's awesome.
For me, I just enjoy LARPing. Like, I love the interactive storytelling. I love that this is a social activity I get to do with my friends, and and I hope to expose more people to it.
I kind of have the same thing as you guys. Like, it's just a really good social construct and really good for making friends. I feel really like a sellout for saying that, but it's kind of true. All right, I've got one. So Kayla Roy says, I was very lucky in an early tabletop to get a scene that changed the way I viewed a key aspect of Vampire the Masquerade, the Beast. Do we have any of those types of epiphanies? For me, my character was quite a follower of he has a religion of music, archaic music of before the world ended. And for the character before he became a priest, he didn't really follow it that heavily. He was just like, it's kind of cool, I like it. And that was because me as a player was kind of like, it's kind of cool, I like it. Now my character has had so many things kind of come up to him and so many problems that he's been facing. I've been finding so many parallels in certain lines and lyrics of music that I can use as words of wisdom for the people who kind of come to my character for like spiritual advice, because he's survived long enough in this religion that he's being looked at as an authority to some degree, which is a little scary. But yeah, so that's kind of a thing. I really didn't get the religion until I started incorporating that kind of aspect into my role play. It was fun.
For me, playing Sicario in Twin Mask has taught me what white privilege is like.
Oh my.
That's apt.
For Visidi, I would. It's not necessarily a LARP character, but there's actually been a lot of epiphanies that I've had with her over the years. But she's grown from this underdog warrior who runs into situations to a more ethereal, fair princess who kind of realizes that she has a whole family that she has to watch out for, rather than just running into the situation herself. I got the next question, I guess.
Yeah.
Nathan Sharp, what are your favorite / most powerful in-game interactions with each other or one of your interview guests? Oh, I have this one.
Okay.
Oh, I have this one. This is actually with Visidi versus the Viscount. There was 2 moments. There was the dance-off.
The dance-off. Oh, my God.
I won't go into further detail, but the dance-off. And then the other one was when I actually came up behind the Viscount when he had all of the stones. Mm-hmm. And I put him in a headlock to get all the stones stolen from him. Okay.
That's mean.
You should meet my character from Labyrinth.
I got a question from Matthew Toyama. At what point does a LARP costume become too expensive, not only in terms of monetary cost, but also in time and effort involved?
Okay, I have a rule about too expensive costumes. There's nothing ever too expensive if you can figure out 2 to 3 times that you can wear it.
That's pretty much my rule as well.
And that's just for costumes in general, I think.
Do you mean 2 to 3 times as the character, or like 2 to 3 very different environments that you can actually get away with using it? Like, oh, I'm going to have this costume because I can use it in a Ren Fair and a LARP and this other thing.
All of the above. So I buy a gown and I'm like, okay, so I'm wearing this for a LARP, but wait, I'm going to a wedding tomorrow or like in a couple of weeks, and oh, you know what? I have a photo shoot coming up too. Sweet. So, I'm going to buy this gown for like $300 and I'm going to use it 3 times. So it equates to 100 times per time.
Yeah, that's why I use the pirate code for Sicarial, but I also use it for Emporon Fury's Fate.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so Joseph Demojo Navarez Jensen. I really apologize if I butchered that name.
Oh, Joe.
Hopefully I didn't. He's asking, favorite power from a LARP? Like,
Forgetful mind.
Yeah, I wonder why. Ryan?
There's a 5th level of Chimu that I play as my Kuei-jin, where I can basically...
This is Vampire, for those unaware.
For Vampire. So he's a Kuei-jin in the Vampire game in La Sangra, and I have the ability to cure derangements, but also restore someone's path in humanity.
Ooh. So for me, it's Dystopia Rising, which is a physical buffer LARP game. There is a skill called Rescue, and if you can touch a person and you yell Rescue, you and that person are immune to all forms of damage and cannot be targeted by anything for about 10 paces, and you can make real big steps. So I love just like charging through a bunch of monsters when someone goes down and baseball sliding to them, whacking my hand on their foot and yelling rescue, and they look at me like I'm a freaking superhero. It's awesome because I get to save them.
All right, so what is the silliest name you have ever given a character, and how did you come up with that name? I'm going to abstain from this one because I have a really hard time coming up with character names, so mine are very, very thoughtful and like takes a long time to figure out.
I've got a whole bunch of dumb names that just kind of pop into my head, like Bumbly Dump, Crumbly Butts, and stuff like that. But I don't think I've ever actually used them for anything. However, I have had fun with a grave robber. Or sorry, he's not a grave robber. I swear he's not a grave robber. I just keep saying grave robber instead of grave digger. No, I genuinely do mean that seriously. He is an above board character. But his name is Mortimer. I think it was Mortimer Kane. And I was having a lot of fun with him. No, Mortimer Underton. Like Undertown, as in the ground, dead. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
For me, it would be from Super LARP. My Lois Lane character, Oliver Your Business.
Oh,
I love that name.
My goodness.
All the clever names are the best.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
I'm from Adria Bruneo. What was your worst, most awkward moment during LARP?
Oh, I have this. I was belly dancing as Lola, and as my final moment, I went to go bend over to pick up my scarf, because that's what you're supposed to do, is you cover up at the very end, and my entire bra popped off. Whoops. I didn't know nip slip, thank God, because I had something else underneath, but no one else knew. I covered it really well, but like the shock of my face, and my sister looked at me, she's like, your bra popped in, and I was like, yep.
Whoops. I block out all of the embarrassing moments that I have and never think about them again, and just put them away deep inside my mind in a tiny little box.
This one's from Angela Bassett. Hi, Angela.
Hey, Angela.
What is your most intense moment of character bleed, and how did you work through it?
Ooh.
I have that one as well, I guess.
Go for it.
That one was the... good Lord. It was the breakup between Sid and Lola for the first. That was the first like major character bleed I actually ever truly experienced, LARPing wise, and it took me about. I'm still kind of dealing with it myself personally, but probably about 24 hours to kind of deal. 48 hours, I'd really say, deal with what the actual bleed was, and the aftercare. Poisel and I actually ended up hanging out a lot more, which is pretty cool, because we struck up a better friendship after that. But we spent like almost like a good portion of the time just talking about what had happened and what we wanted to happen and what were the future things, but like everything's gonna be okay, and like kind of settled on sort of stuff like that. So it was a really big major moment for me. How about you, Kai?
That's super healthy and awesome, and I think that's great. For me, I think I've had a few times where I've like kind of survivor guilt. Like other people have been taken down because they haven't been as familiar with the game system and stuff, and they've made like a mistake and or had an ability that they realized they could call and they haven't been able to. And I've tried my best to save them, but even then, like I wasn't able to get them to do them safety in time and things like that. So I always feel like really guilty that I'm like, I had the power to like stop that character from going, and I didn't get that chance. And I'm like, they invested time and costume into it, and I feel bad. And that's been my biggest aspects of Bleed, where like, you know, I've seen a cool character going around that I want to stick around, and I've had a chance to save them, and it's, you know, like something's happened where I've been unable to do it.
Let me see. For me, it was Sicario in the Dark Future. Like being surrounded for 2 hours, being told you're nothing, you should die.
That sounds way intense.
It was way intense, but I understood the importance of the scene of being the leader and having been deposed and having to be subject to a lot of mocking, because it was important to show that I was powerless in the situation, and then at the end, like, executed. And what was helpful was being able to sit down, especially with Andrew Jerome, who was playing the leader of he wasn't the leader of the mockers necessarily, but he was the vampire like ruler in the Dark Future, and him and I like sitting down along with a couple of storytellers just to decompress helped everything. So that aftercare was important.
Cool.
And we're going to end with one question from me real quick.
Okay.
Just make it not kind of goofy, kind of weird. Do you guys do any like ritual or anything before you play at LARP?
Yes.
Shoot.
I think a lot of us have actually talked about this or mentioned certain aspects of it. There's a lot of different rituals that people do.
Yeah, mine's my sister and I have actually got, this would be the third time, so I guess it's kind of considered a ritual. We've listened to Gwen Stefani Holler Back Girl before we get there.
Oh no.
Yeah, I feel like a lot of people have playlists for their characters to help them kind of get into the zone. I also feel like, at least especially when it comes into LARP, if you're kind of playing around with, like, you know, you're putting on the costume and it's almost like you're imagining your character like starting their daily routine of like you putting on the costume and you're like doing your hair and things like that, and you've got your playlist in the background. It really helps you kind of cycle of like, maybe this is how my character does this every day.
Yeah, that would get you like in the mood.
Exactly,
of, like,
and that's
psyche, right?
that's the whole idea. It's
Totally.
just a primer to like kind of jumpstart you into being your method character again.
Cool.
Yeah. The only ritual that I have is I put on my entire costume before I go to a LARP. I role play out some scenes by myself in a mirror, kind of to anything that I'm expecting to happen, if it's anything stressful or anything that's on my mind. And I make sure I have every single piece of like costume, jewelry, everything on. And then as soon as I'm satisfied with that, then I pack that. And I can't pack until I'm satisfied with everything that I am wearing.
So, like, if you like, would you say that like if you were to anticipate a certain type of really emotional scene that's going to happen at that specific LARP, that you would act out like similar kind of scenes?
Yeah, just a little bit. And,
Yeah.
you know, like you don't know exactly what's going to happen. And sometimes it may never like cross a role play, but it's important, at least in my head, to just kind of do that. Like I even do that for like theatrical roles, but also for like auditions. Like I just always get into the mindset, even if I sound silly talking by myself, but it's important for me to hear the voice as well as be in the costume.
Absolutely.
I feel like that's really beneficial for all kinds of aspects of especially public speaking. If your character is going to be attempting any of that, or if you yourself as a person have an interest in trying that, I feel like LARP is a good venue to attempt public speaking because everyone is interested in what you're going to say and they're not going to be dicks about it.
Yeah, I've learned exactly how to do public speaking because of LARP. I can get an entire audience to listen because I've practiced it and I know all the tips and tricks to do that.
Awesome.
I feel like from my perspective, I would assume that LARPing would be a very safe way to break down many walls.
It is.
Absolutely.
And I feel like that's something that we touch upon a lot in this is LARPing is a really good confidence builder, and I think it's a really good social tool. It's almost like, you know, kids when they're a little younger like play pretend games to foster your imagination, and like, you know, if you're playing it with friends and everyone's pretending to be a Power Ranger, it's not just doing that, it's building social skills and things like that. And
I was the yellow one.
I was pink.
I don't know why they made me the yellow
remember
one.
what color I was. Either green or blue.
I didn't really play.
Aww.
Before we end it, we have to still select our favorite question.
We do. I figure we can look over things in a downtime thing, and like we can record that in a minute after we've read a bunch, because there's a lot that we haven't fully read here.
Okay,
Yeah,
so
I
we
think
can
something like that. You
edit
have to
this
go
little
back and look
discussion
through
out.
all the
We can be like,
questions,
while we might not have gotten to this one, this is one we really liked, or so forth.
So I will tag that at the very end after we sign off. Okay.
So on that note, social medias.
Yeah, social medias. So this is Ryan. You can find me on Ryan Omega on Facebook and Instagram, and on Twitter as Ryan OMGA.
This is Kai, and it's pretty easy to find me with Yo Kai Props, YOKAI PROPS, and I'm all over the Instagrams, Twitters, and the other things. Also, if you guys get the chance, don't forget to give us a 5-star rating or review on Podbean or iTunes. It would really help us out. Thank you so much.
Yay. So for me, Cynthia, you can find me on Instagram, Cynthia__Marie, and that is also attached to my Twitter. So you'll see some more of my Twitter stuff. But if you want to find me on Twitter, it is at Syndancer.
Yeah.
Right on. And the moderators today, James, you can find a lot of cool stuff over at ancientarchivesapparel.com. We have a Facebook, Ancient Archives Apparel. The Facebook, Ancient Archives Apparel. Instagram, I'm doing a Snapchat. And we're still not wearing any pants.
We'll put those on later. It's okay.
Yeah, we'll figure it out.
Oh.
Yeah, we'll put on each other's pants. No.
Whoa.
No.
Whoa.
No.
All right. So, thank you so much, everyone.
Gotta catch 'em all.
Gotta, no.
It's true.
Oh, I was trying to think of a
That
way
was
to.
appropriate.
Well,
Let's end cut there. Yeah.
I was trying to. I was trying to think of a thoughtful way to sign off. So, from all of us at Life Action Roleplay. Get a life, several of them, because you can get several of them through LARP. Until next time.
Bye.
Bye.
And Ryan here with the aftermath of the podcast, where after the co-host and I talked about it, we have selected somebody, and we selected Scott Jackson for his question about characters playing against type. So thank you so much. Please get in contact with us at Life Action Roleplay, our Facebook page, or you can contact us individually, either Kai, Sin, or myself, so that we can get the information from you. And coming up, we have a couple of podcasts coming to you with Rudy Rutenberg from Maze Arcana. So the first one is going to be about world build and game mechanics, and he's launching a new show called The Inkwell Society, which happens to have Kai Norman as one of his cast members. And then we are going to have another podcast with Rudy Rutenberg about his military experience and being a veteran and how that has shaped his role play experience, including discussions on PTSD and other important topics for veterans and people who have had that experience. So there's a lot that's coming up and a lot of guests that we're going to be interviewing. I'm really excited about what's coming up, but can't talk about it quite yet because I don't want to jinx things. But thank you so much for all of the sharing and all of the support and all of the 5 stars that you've been putting onto our particular podcasts or on iTunes or on Podbean or wherever our podcast is available. And I'm still not good at trying to figure out a catchphrase to end every podcast. So this is Ryan signing off awkwardly in order to figure out a way to end this podcast. So instead of trying to ramble and trying to figure out the end, this is the end, and I'll see you next time. Bye.